provocative suggestion that some economists are weighing. Should Canada drop or at least cut that massive tariff, 100%, on Chinese electric vehicles coming into the country? Of course, that was introduced by the Liberal government in tandem with the US government, which is also keeping out Chinese electric vehicles or putting a massive duty on them. We're joined by Julian Karaguesian, visiting lecturer in the Department of Economics at McGill University. Thanks very much for coming on the show. You say that obviously Canada's rethinking our relationship with the US. We've been economically, in some ways, a vassal state of theirs for a long time. And you say maybe we should rethink this way we've been blocking Chinese vehicles.
Thanks for having me on the show, Andrew. Yes, I do say that. I ask myself the question, what quarrels do we have with the People's Republic of China that were not manufactured in Washington, whether it was stopping Huawei or whether it was the arrest of Ms. Meng, or given the topic of the show, 100% tariffs on electric vehicles and on electric buses, on every kind of electric vehicle. And we imposed that on October 1st last year, the same day that the Americans imposed it, which tells me that we did that somehow at the request of the Biden administration. And we do these things with the Americans. And let's say that we were Machiavellian about it and we were going to get a reward. Well, we don't get a reward. And we are isolating ourselves or alienating ourselves from the Chinese people and from the country, which is now the largest since 2016, 2017. It's the largest economy in the world on a purchasing power parity basis. So I think we should take this tariff off now. And the Trump trade war gives us an opportunity to free ourselves and pursue a business approach to trade.
But as you know, we have this famously integrated auto business. Tens of thousands of Canadian jobs are dependent on the auto industry. So are you being a bit simplistic here, saying we could go it on our own?
I am. I don't mean to be simplistic. I wanted to add some nuance, but we could do this. We could sit down and just have a conversation in the first instance with our Chinese counterparts and say, look, what are the possibilities to cooperate in a way that doesn't dislocate Canadian industry? China has to find jobs for 20 million new labor entrants each year, and we have to find jobs for our new labor market interest in Canada, and we have to protect our industries. I think that's something they understand well. And I think that's something, coming out of the period of hyper-globalization and now these tensions with the United States that are unwanted by us, I think it gives us an opportunity to at least sit down and speak with the Chinese and to see whether we have some kind of overlapping interests. I think we do. I don't think, it's in our interest to allow the market to be flooded with inexpensive electric vehicles, but perhaps we can cooperate and have a quota on Chinese vehicles instead of a tariff, allow a certain number to come in. I mean, our entire automobile industry, as integrated as it is with the United States, has only produced 40,000 electric vehicles to date. And so there's space for other countries to come in, and we can cooperate on production and on imports and in other areas.
It's interesting. Could we negotiate some kind of a winning formula for Canada here? I don't just mean the Chinese setting up assembly plants, but in some ways, Canada getting intellectual property. I know I'm always going on about this. The viewers are sick of it, but it's the crucial thing in the 21st century economy. Can we get IP out of this? Patents that belong to Canada?
I mean, I think that if we just sat down and instead of following the diktats of Washington, if we just sat down, and we have this opportunity now that we're kind of freed of this obligation to play in the Washington sandbox. And so we're out of it. And I think we need to think big, and we can just sit down and have a conversation with the Chinese to see what's possible, to see if we can transfer intellectual property and to see if we can build these things here. I mean, they have over 50 companies making electric vehicles and electric buses and electric trucks, and in many areas they're on the technological frontier. And so I do think there's an opportunity. It never hurts to talk, and I think we could talk about IP as well.
Yeah, I mean, there would be outrage from the auto industry, I suppose. The Americans might claim, well, you're creating a backdoor for Chinese electric autos to come in, but I guess they could keep banning them themselves if they want.
They could, yeah, they can keep their tariff, but we could have an independent trade policy, and the Chinese we could both import and produce Chinese EVs in Canada. We can invite Canadian automakers to the extent they'd want to come to the table and talk. But Trump's people and the ideologues behind President Trump, I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring jobs and factories back to the United States. America first. I get it. Prime Minister Carney has said he gets it and he respects it. I mean, I think that the point of the spear of the trade policy is to repatriate the automobile sector to the United States. That is the grave threat that we're facing. And so we need to think, well, if that is going to happen, if that happens, we need to expand our trade and investment ties beyond the United States in the automobile sector. We already have other foreign producers here. And so why not one of the largest producers in the world with some of the most advanced EVs, at least have a conversation about it?
That's interesting, yeah. And I see a think tank said Canadian auto plants are set to produce 1.3 million vehicles this year, the lowest in decades. Now, some of that apparently is because plants are they're switching over, but certainly our auto industry in Canada has been hollowed out. Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Andrew.
Julian